Azili has been regarded as one of, if not the singular worst chimps hero by a large majority, and relegated to a niche free-play hero, neither of which are true. This makes her, in my opinion, the singular most underrated tower in the game, especially since she has specific use cases where she is better than even Sai or Churchill in those uses. In this video, we will examine why Azili is such a good hero, as well as her best synergies, maps, and potential weaknesses you might need to play around if you want to maximize her potential. Azili is an intricate hero, but to sum it up, her main role is a heavy blimp specialist and or RBE minimizing support. She has a base cost of $650 in chimps, and at level 1, she attacks a few bloons with a small AoE and curses the main bloon she hits. Her next few levels are irrelevant. Heartstopper is still considered one of the worst hero abilities in the game, although recent buffs brought it up from being the worst hero ability to the second worst. Her level 8 provides a massive boost to her attack's Moab damage, which contributes greatly to her loadout. Being the true star of the show, her level 10 opens up the Moab Hex ability. We'll return to this later, but for now, know that it is the most significant part of her kit. Her level 11 sounds good on paper, but in practice, it does not work as intended, or Pod never pierce caps anyways, so the effect can be ignored. The rest of her upgrades remain pretty basic, mainly increasing her Moab damage until we reach level 20. At level 20, her Moab Hex is able to target bads, granting a free pass to round 100. While not attainable naturally, level 20 is still quite cheap on expert maps, being cheaper than first strike capability while being a surefire way of handling round 100. This poses the question, what makes Azili so good? As said before, her main selling points are her relatively strong main attacks, as well as her Moab Hex. I'll show a brief clip of round 91 on my Superstorm Ravine run. First, the BFB split into two lanes, perfectly demonstrating both of Azili's selling points. Azili's powerful DOT spreads to all the left side BFBs, breaking down the RBE enough for the other towers to clean up. However, Azili's main attack doesn't quite reach the right side, and Phoenix is on cooldown, so the only tower that can deal significant damage would be Spiked Balls. Normally, Spalls would be nowhere close to being able to tank off of 91, and that's where Hex comes in. By extinguishing the children from every BFB on the right side, Spalls easily cleans up the BFBs and can take care of the rest of the round. Azili's Mob Hex is a complex yet powerful ability. When activated, she places a Hex on a blimp depending on her targeting. The Hex has a 60-second cooldown and 25 ticks, ticking once per second and dealing 40% of the blimp's HP plus 1. At first glance, the ability seems pathetic, but by looking at its secondary and tertiary effects, its true power is revealed. Blimps popped with the Hex status do not spawn children, and if there are ticks remaining, the Hex will quote-unquote jump to another target based off of Azili's targeting while using up a tick. These make Hex one of the strongest abilities in the game, capable of clearing mass amounts of RBE, as well as nullifying early 80s ZOM keys. To give meaning to the 25 ticks, a well-timed Hex could theoretically remove the insides of all of the ZOM keys as well as over half of the BFBs of 98, removing 165,632 RBE out of 98's 327,456. Furthermore, this ability is already nearly at full potential once you unlock it, only being upgraded once on level 20. Instead of her potency being scaled off of levels, her strength mainly scales off of her synergies. Azili synergizes well with point DPS, infinite range, line of sight bypassing, cheap bloon damage, or even a combination of these. This leaves a large selection of towers that pair well with Azili. She pairs well with all tier 4 Dartlings, Summon Phoenix, Spike Balls, Spike Storm, Permaspike, Elite Defender, and the Prince of Darkness. The tier 4 Dartlings have all of the aforementioned traits, outstanding bloon DPS, infinite range, as well as control DPS. Her anti-ZOMG properties also make her a great hero to pair with mid-games that struggle with ZOMGs, such as Summon Phoenix or the Prince of Darkness. Her synergy with Phoenix is why she currently outclasses Etienne as a mid-game hero, covering Phoenix's weaknesses instead of sharing them. Her RB removal properties makes her pair extremely well with Spike Factories, with Factories benefiting greatly from RB removal, while Hex benefits from their point DPS. Her Elite Defender synergy is a really unique one, since Edef's point DPS makes Hex much easier to control, and Hex's RB removal relieves a lot of stress off of Edef, just considering the sheer amount of super traps each tick removes. Her main attack also provides group Moab DPS for Edef. Pair this duo up with a good group ceramic DPS in order to try to hold the line for whenever Hex is down. These properties also pair very well with DKs in the early 80s, although this synergy heavily lacks balloon DPS in the mid-game. Henceforth, it is not quite recommended. With all of that in mind, here are the maps he performs best in. Due to Hex's global range, he is still viable on every map, but he begins to shine on a few specific maps. Her most notable maps are Geared, Quad, and Ravine. Due to Geared being a single lane map, Hex jumping is made incredibly easy, maximizing her potential and putting her on the same tier as Sai on Geared. As for Ravine, her Hex targeting isn't great. However, its map shape instead gives her a prime spot to maximize her main attack and her DOT, making her an extremely potent hero even when Hex is down. She also packages up round 100 easily, since her level 20 costs a mere $15,000 on expert maps, although this may change depending on how early or late you get her. This is even more important here since Ravine's odd map shape and line of sight blockers causes round 100 to be a much more threatening round than usual. Lastly, since every tower's targeting on Quad gets screwed over, this extends to Hex, allowing Azealis to target the exact same thing as your other towers. Even with all of her strengths, she still has very glaring weaknesses that you need to play around, most notably her complete lack of balloon DPS. He deals absolutely nothing to balloons, not in the early game, mid, and late game. Due to that, she has one of the worst earlies in the game, only being better than Benjamin. Her main attack serves zero purpose in the early game, sometimes being even worse than not having her at all, since she can break down whites and blacks into 2 pinks each, making your Sniper Slayer skip less. The only value she provides in the early game is defense against round 24, lead assistance against 37 and 38, and providing camo intel for your airburst sub. Besides that, her early game is by far her weakest point due to how abysmal her main attack is against balloons. That carries over to the balloons in the mid game, fully relying on your other towers for balloon dense rounds such as 63, 76, and 78. He has an extremely unique mid game, completely demolishing Moab rounds such as 64 and 75, but horribly dying to the aforementioned balloon rounds. Overall, Azealis is an extremely powerful Moab specialist who excels against ZOMGs, but has an over-reliance on your other towers for mid-game balloons. Worthy of being an S- hero.